The night I destroyed everything he thought he knew about me, I wore red lipstick like war paint. 3 years. 3 years of my life wasted on a man who treated my dreams like jokes, and my ambitions like cute little fantasies that would eventually fade away. The breakup happened on a Tuesday. I remember because I had been sketching designs for what would later become my signature furniture line. And Daniel walked into my tiny apartment like he owned the place. "Still playing with your little drawings, I see," he said, tossing his keys onto my coffee table with that familiar sound of dismissal. I looked up from my sketches. "These are not drawings, Daniel. They are business plans." He laughed. Actually laughed. The sound cut through me like broken glass. "Business plans? Aurora, you live in a studio apartment in Somerville. You drive a car that should have died 5 years ago. You eat cereal for dinner 3 nights a week. What business?" The way he said my name. Like it was something embarrassing. Like I was something embarrassing. "I am building something," I whispered, my voice shaking with rage I had been suppressing for months. "You are building fantasies," he shot back. "And I am tired of pretending they matter." That was the moment. The exact moment when 3 years of accumulated hurt crystallized into something sharp and unforgiving in my chest. "Get out," I said. "What?" "Get out of my apartment. Get out of my life. We are done." He stared at me like I had just spoken in a foreign language. Then that smirk appeared. That horrible, condescending smirk that had been chipping away at my confidence for 3 years. "You will regret this, Aurora. You think you can do better than me? You think someone else is going to put up with your ridiculous ideas and your constant need for validation? Nobody is going to want you when you fail. And you will fail." He grabbed my coffee maker on his way out. Not because he needed it, but because he could. Because taking something of mine felt like winning. The door slammed behind him, and I sat there in the silence of my empty apartment, surrounded by my sketches and my dreams and the crushing weight of his words. But something strange happened in that silence. Instead of crying, I felt something I had not felt in years. Relief. The first month after Daniel left was brutal. I lived on instant ramen and determination. I had exactly $437 in my checking account, and a credit card that was already maxed out from covering our shared expenses. But I also had something I had not possessed in 3 years. Complete control over my time and energy. I started small. My friend Cassandra needed her apartment redesigned before her mother visited from Greece. I offered to do it for the cost of materials, just to build my portfolio. The transformation was incredible. I turned her cramped one-bedroom into something that looked like it belonged in a design magazine. The photos I took of that space would later become the foundation of everything I built. Then came Vivian, who needed her Victorian row house updated. She had a slightly bigger budget, and I was able to source some incredible vintage pieces from estate sales and flea markets. Word spread in the way that good work always does. Quietly at first, then with increasing momentum. I was working 18-hour days, carrying fabric samples on the subway, measuring spaces during my lunch breaks from my day job at the architecture firm. But I was building something. 6 months later, I quit my day job. Not because I was making enough money to replace my salary. I was not even close. But because I had booked enough projects to survive for 3 months. And I knew that if I did not take the leap, I would spend the rest of my life wondering what could have been. The breakthrough came from an unexpected place. I had been documenting my design process on a small blog, mainly as a way to organize my thoughts and track my progress. One of my posts was about transforming a dining room on a $5 budget using paint, creativity, and some strategic furniture arrangement. It was titled "Champagne Taste on a Beer Budget. How I Made Magic with $5. The post went viral. Not viral in the way that cat videos go viral, but viral in the design world. It was shared by major home improvement blogs, featured in online magazines, and suddenly my inbox was flooded with inquiries. Boston Homes magazine reached out first. They wanted to do a feature on young designers who were disrupting the industry with innovative, budget-conscious approaches. The article changed everything. Suddenly, I was not just Aurora the girl with big dreams. I was Aurora the designer who could create luxury on any budget. Aurora the creative genius who understood that style was not about money, but about vision. The phone started ringing. Real clients with real budgets. A tech entrepreneur in Cambridge wanted his penthouse redesigned. A successful lawyer needed her Beacon Hill brownstone updated. A restaurateur wanted me to design his new location in the North End. And then came the call that would change my life forever. Miss Aurora? This is Isabella Costello. I am calling from Capri, Italy. I saw your work in the American design magazines, and I would like you to design my summer villa. But I need you to come here to do it. I will cover all expenses, of course. I stared at my phone, wondering if this was some kind of elaborate prank. I am sorry, could you repeat that? I want to hire you to design my villa in Capri. It is a 6-month project. You would live on the property while you work. The compensation would be significant. She named a number that was more than I had made in the previous 2 years combined. Capri was where I learned what luxury really meant. Not the surface-level expensive things that Daniel always coveted, but true luxury. The luxury of time to perfect your craft. The luxury of working with the finest materials. The luxury of creating something beautiful without compromise. Isabella became more than a client. She became a mentor. She introduced me to craftsmen who had been perfecting their trades for generations. She showed me how to source the most exquisite fabrics, the most unique antiques, the most skilled artisans. But more importantly, she showed me how to value my own work. Aurora, you are not just arranging furniture, she would say as we walked through her villa. You are creating experiences. You are designing how people will feel in these spaces. That is priceless. The villa project was featured in Architectural Digest, then Elle Decor, then design magazines across Europe. Suddenly, I was not just busy, I was in demand. A tech mogul in London wanted his penthouse designed. A fashion designer in Milan needed her showroom renovated. A Hollywood producer wanted me to design his vacation home in the Hamptons. I was flying across continents, working with budgets that seemed impossible just 2 years earlier. But the real transformation was not in my bank account or my client list. The real transformation was in how I saw myself. By my 35th birthday, I was not just an interior designer. I was the founder and creative director of Aurora Luxe, a luxury interior design brand with offices in Boston, London, and Milan. I had a team of 12 employees, a waiting list of clients that stretched 6 months out, and contracts worth more than I had ever imagined possible. The girl who used to eat cereal for dinner was now flying first class to meet with billionaire clients. The girl who used to live in a studio apartment now owned a penthouse in Back Bay, a cottage in the Cotswolds, and a share in a villa in Tuscany. The girl who Daniel said nobody would want was now turning down more opportunities than she could possibly accept. But success, I learned, is not just about what you build. Sometimes it is about who gets to witness what you have built. The flagship showroom opening was supposed to be a celebration. I had been planning it for months. The space was incredible. A converted warehouse in the South End with soaring ceilings, exposed brick walls, and enough room to display my complete furniture collection alongside stunning room vignettes. I had invited my biggest clients, influential design bloggers, local press, and industry colleagues. The catering was exceptional, the champagne was flowing, and a string quartet was playing softly in the corner. Everything was perfect. And then he walked in. Daniel. Uninvited. Unexpected. Wearing that same smirk that had haunted my nightmares for 3 years. He looked exactly the same. Same hair. Same clothes. Same air of unearned confidence. But I was not the same person he had left behind in that tiny apartment. I was wearing a custom dress that cost more than his monthly rent. My hair was styled by the same person who worked with celebrities. I was surrounded by the evidence of everything I had built. And yet, seeing him still made my heart pound. Not with fear or sadness or longing. With rage. Aurora, he said, approaching me like we were old friends. Wow. You have really changed. The audacity of it. The absolute audacity of this man who had told me I would fail, who had mocked my dreams, who had taken my coffee maker like some kind of pathetic consolation prize, to walk into my success and comment on how I had changed. Not really, I replied, my voice steady and cold. You just never saw me clearly. He laughed. That same dismissive laugh that had once made me feel small. But now I was looking down at him from 6-inch heels, and nothing about me felt small anymore. He spent the next hour trying to infiltrate my success, making conversation with my clients, complimenting my designs like his opinion mattered, acting like he belonged in a space he had never believed I could create. I watched him from across the room, and I realized something profound. He was smaller than I remembered. Not physically smaller, but smaller in every way that mattered. His presence was diminished. His confidence was forced. His attempts to impress my guests were transparent and embarrassing. This man had once convinced me that my dreams were impossible. Now he was standing in the middle of my achieved dreams, looking lost and ordinary. When he finally approached me again near the end of the evening, most of my guests had left. The space was quieter, more intimate, and the magnitude of what I had accomplished was even more apparent. "This is really impressive, Aurora," he said, and for the first time he sounded genuine. "I had no idea you would actually do all this." "You had no idea because you never believed in me," I replied. "That is not true. I just thought you were being unrealistic." "You thought I was being unrealistic because you could never imagine doing anything this ambitious yourself." The words hung in the air between us like a challenge. "Look," he said, shifting uncomfortably. "Maybe we could get coffee sometime? Catch up properly." And that was when I made my decision. I walked him to my office area, where my desk was covered with contracts and proposals. I did not try to hide them. In fact, I made sure he could see them clearly. A contract for a Manhattan penthouse worth $2 million. A proposal for a luxury hotel chain renovation. An invitation to design a private jet interior for a tech billionaire. Each individual project was worth more than his entire annual salary. I let him process that information while I straightened some papers, taking my time, letting the magnitude of my success settle around us like expensive perfume. "Coffee sounds lovely," I said finally. "But I am actually flying to Dubai next week for a client consultation, then to Paris for a showroom opening, then to Los Angeles for a celebrity client. My schedule is quite full these days." I was not lying. My calendar really was that packed. But I also was not interested in coffee with Daniel. I was interested in something much more satisfying. I walked him to the door of my showroom, my heels clicking against the polished concrete floors. The space looked even more impressive in the dim evening light. The carefully curated furniture pieces cast dramatic shadows. The custom lighting I had designed created pools of warmth and elegance. This was my kingdom, my empire, my proof that everything he had said about me was wrong. "It was good to see you, Daniel," I said as we reached the entrance. "Yeah, you too. Really impressive what you have built here." I smiled. Not the fake smile I had been giving him all evening, but a real smile. A smile of pure, unfiltered satisfaction. "Thank you," I said. "I built exactly what I said I would build." And then I did something that felt like the most perfect ending to our story. I left the door open. Not wide open, just slightly ajar. Just enough for him to see inside as he walked away. Just enough for him to watch as Marcus Rothschild, one of my wealthiest clients, approached me with champagne glasses and began discussing his upcoming project in Monaco. Just enough for him to witness me laughing and clinking glasses with people who existed in a world he could never afford to enter. I saw him pause on the sidewalk. I saw him look back. I saw him realize that he was on the outside looking in at a life he had once convinced me I was not capable of creating. And then I saw him walk away, alone into the Boston night. The next morning, I was having breakfast on the terrace of my penthouse when I posted the photo. It was from my last trip to Capri. I was standing on the terrace of Isabella's villa, wearing a flowing white dress, the Mediterranean stretching endlessly behind me. My hair was caught in the breeze, and I was smiling the kind of smile that comes from pure contentment. The caption read, "Some regrets age better than others." I posted it and set my phone aside to finish my espresso and review contracts for the day. When I checked my notifications an hour later, Daniel had liked the post. Within minutes of my posting it. Which meant he had been watching, waiting, monitoring my social media to see glimpses of the life he had once told me I could never build. I stared at that notification for a long moment, feeling something I had not expected. Not satisfaction. Not revenge. Not even vindication. Peace. I never blocked him. I wanted him to keep watching. I wanted him to see every magazine feature, every celebrity client, every exotic location, every milestone in my expanding empire. I wanted him to witness every single thing he had told me was impossible. Because the most beautiful revenge is not making someone suffer. The most beautiful revenge is living so extraordinarily well that your past becomes someone else's biggest regret. 6 months later, Aurora Lux was featured on the cover of International Design. The headline read, "The Visionary Who Revolutionized Luxury Design." The article mentioned that I had started with virtually nothing and built a multi-million-dollar empire through pure talent, determination, and an unwavering belief in her own vision. Daniel liked that post too, and every post after it. He became a silent witness to my success. A constant reminder of how wrong someone can be about your potential. Sometimes I imagine him in his unchanged life, scrolling through photos of my unchanged trajectory, wondering what would have happened if he had believed in me instead of betting against me. But that is his regret to carry. I am too busy building the impossible to spend much time thinking about the people who said it could not be done. 3 years after that night when he told me I would regret leaving him, I received an invitation that felt like the universe completing a circle. Forbes wanted to feature me in their 30 Under 40 Women Revolutionizing Business issue. The photo shoot was scheduled for next month. The magazine would be distributed internationally, and Daniel would definitely see it. As I hung up the phone after confirming the interview, I realized that I no longer needed his validation or his regret. I had built something far more valuable than revenge. I had built a life so extraordinary that his opinion of it simply did not matter anymore. And that, I realized, was the sweetest victory of all. If this story inspired you to chase your own impossible dreams, please subscribe to our channel for more incredible stories of transformation, revenge, and the power of proving everyone wrong. Your support helps us share these powerful journeys of resilience and success. Hit that subscribe button and join our community of dreamers who refuse to give up.